Greetings. Welcome to Equity API. Lee Sweat, founder and CEO, and thank you very much for joining me here today. Today we are going to discuss vesting when it comes to your equity compensation grants. And there are, in general, two different methods of vesting, where you have your schedule vesting or your milestone vesting. Now, schedule is also called horizontal or calendar vesting. And what it represents is that the longer that you stay with your organization that granted you your equity, the more equity is going to vest to you. So it's going to vest in separate tranches the longer that you spend at that organization. The second type of vesting that we see is milestone vesting. Now, milestone vesting is largely relegated to performance shares, where you're going to utilize that vesting requirement or that vesting percentage as a multiplier of your total grant based on some performance metric. Now, if you recall, vesting is different for different vehicles. Vesting in option-like instruments does not mean that you have constructive receipt of the equity. It just gives you the right to exercise. Whereas in your restricted stock or performance stock or RSUs, PSUs, when you vest, you now have constructive receipt of that equity. Also within vesting, we have different structures of equity vesting. The first type of structure is what we call cliff vesting, where as you move through time, you have one major milestone to hit in terms of time, and all of your equity vests at that point in time. Where in this example, we have a 2-year vesting schedule, a cliff vesting schedule, and at the end of those 2 years, 100% of your equity vests to you, but no equity vests in the meantime. The second major structure that we see is what we call graduated, where over the same time frame, let's say 4 years here, each year you have a equal vesting tranche where you're vesting, say, 25%, 25%, 25%, 25% over the 4 years. And at the end of the 4th year, that full amount of that equity grant is vested to you. Lastly, we also see backloaded equity vesting structures, where it is a bit more delayed in terms of the total size that you receive during your vesting. Where in this example, at year 1, we have a 10% vesting, then followed up by a 20% vesting, a 30% vesting, and then in the last year, a 40% vesting. This type of backloading, if you will, is more common for key employees at early stage companies because it incentivizes those employees to stay for a longer period of time in order to get the product to market. So we have seen equity plans and equity grants utilizing a variety of these different vesting structures and methods. So if you have any questions regarding your specific equity grant, or if you're in the recruiting process and there's a lot of different equity structure vestings out there that you're unsure of how it's gonna make sense for you, please reach out for a consultation. I want to thank you very much for joining me here today, and I look forward to seeing you in another session. Thank you very much, and good luck.